This is Titletown Sound.
If Joe Flacco is worth a fourth-round pick, Antonio Brown might be worth a negative fifth-round pick.
Again, I'm just a fat dude sitting on the couch. But, I watch a lot of football.
I'm here to kick ass and make steaks, and I'm all out of steaks.
Year one, he was like, all right, guys, I don't know what Dom taught you, but you need to have 11 guys on the field.
A trained orangutan could have done a better job than Ron Zimms. I mean, not even well trained.
Welcome, Packers fans, to episode 239 of the Titletown Sound podcast. This is the podcast for fans of the Green Bay Packers and fans of ice cream. That's right, we are taping on July 19th, 2020, and it is National Ice Cream Day, and I usually would make a joke here, but I think this is too serious. James, no joke, my co-host James Corsmo. James, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
So that's a hard question for me to answer because I have a lot, but the Tillamook Dairy Creamery in Tillamook, Oregon makes a huckleberry, or not huckleberry, what is it? I don't know. I believe it's huckleberry. It's like a blackberry-ish type ice cream that I would bury myself in and eat my way out if I had unlimited funds.
It's that sounds like a Patreon goal to me. If we could get 10 more Hall of Famers, James will take an ice cream bath and eat his way out of the boysenberry or whatever it is.
Oh, please.
Kevin, my other co-host, Kevin Christopher, also my brother. Kevin, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Man, that's a good question. I like the Ben & Jerry's half-baked, which is the cookie and brownie. It's like mixed together. It's like all of it.
Okay.
So that's my favorite. Now, interesting fact, I don't have any ice cream in the house, but I do have a strawberry daiquiri, and it also is National Daiquiri Day. So
is it really?
Make sure you get a double in there.
Yeah, that's important.
Blended or on the rocks?
It's one of those like bags of booze. So
oh yeah,
throw it in the freezer. Yeah, so it's
right.
That.
Like
so
my Aunt Kim.
Just a bag of booze.
Yep, just a bag of booze.
My favorite ice cream, I have a tough time with this, and actually, it's related to this clip.
If Benjamin were an ice cream flavor, he'd be pralines and dick.
Now, have you ever had actual praline ice cream, sans the dick?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
No?
I have had it, but not in the way you've described it. Sorry.
I do like, but no, I'm a fan of the
pralines
buttery
nuts, right?
Yeah, they're like kind of, but I want to say, and some Southerners probably going to unsubscribe as a patron because of this, but praline is like a cluster of sugar. It's like an artificial nut made of sugar.
That's you ever been
part of a movie I've seen?
I don't know if they have them up by you guys, but if you go to back when we had these things, county fairs or state fairs or baseball games, they have I think they're called Heavenly Nuts or something like that. They're in a cart. They're just sugar covered, all kinds of different nuts. That's right. That's pretty much praline, right?
Yeah. I mean, pralines are if you have that covering, but you took the nut out. It's just the sugar. Now, if then if it's pralines and dick, see, I always thought that was a problematic part of Wayne's World because I guess pralines and dick, he's attractive at first, but then when you get below the surface, once you get through the praline, okay.
Yeah,
so I think
it's salty flavor. Yeah,
right. And if it's pralines and dick, you're obligated to leave the nuts in.
So we're at 4:55 in the show by my show counter, and we've mentioned nothing about the Packers, but a whole lot about other topics. So let's move on because I think we should at some point talk about at least football in general. And we do have some news stories this week. There's not a whole lot of Packers news going on, but there is league-wide news from around the league that we're going to get to. And Kevin just disappeared. This is usually his part, so I'm a little. Oh, he's back. Oh, good. I was a little concerned. If you're not watching on the live stream or on YouTube, he literally disappeared from the screen as I called on him for news, and that can be a problem because he's our news guy. I hit the wrong damn button, guys. How many shows? Let's try that again.
38.
We'll edit that out in post.
Spanning the globe to bring you all of the news that's fit to podcast. It's Kevin Christofko.
Kevin, we've had a lot of nuts, a lot of nut talk, a lot of ice cream talk. Now for a little bit of football talk, I think. Let's go to the news. You ready for story number one?
Let's do it. 9 out of 10 stars agree. The league needs to get serious about COVID safety.
So what was it, yesterday or the day before that these tweets started popping up, James? Do you know?
I this morning is really when I first saw the first of them.
So there's obviously an NFL a concerted effort by the players' union to start tweeting, and basically it looks like they're waging a PR campaign kind of against the owners on Twitter at this point. So a bunch of players started tweeting about the problems with the NFL's plan to return or lack of plan to return and lack of safety. I think J.J. Watt spelled it out most explicitly, but James, these players all coming together saying the NFL is not ready with proper safety checks in place.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty united across the board that they feel, and the NFL really hasn't done a whole lot with all the time they've had to prepare. And I mean, when you look at it on paper, the NFL had the most amount of time with which to prepare and get a plan in place. And by all indications, they really didn't. And which
they had their entire offseason to understand that this was something impactful. If you'll remember, we went into lockdown around St. Patrick's Day. The Super Bowl was over in the beginning of February. They had more time than any other league really to prepare for this.
All right. I mean, it interrupted basketball, and it was only a month until spring training. Not even. Actually, spring training was going when all this happened.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, it was clearly there was some sort of group concerted effort amongst the NFLPA to get together and do this, which is I think they were backed into a corner. I think the owners really were just saying, all right, we're going to leave it till the last minute. And then if the players decide not to play, then it looks like they're just a-holes.
Right.
And we come out ahead. And the players, I think right now at this point are like, no, we want to play. Like, we want to play. But not that's a good point. So let's stop there. That was the main message that the players were sending, that they want to play. And they do. Look, it's the same thing with, at this point, it's hard to find a person who doesn't want to go back to their regular job and for things to be normal. And I mean that from the person who hates their job to the person who plays in the NFL. Most people want to go back to their jobs. But the question now is it safe? And that's exactly what they were trying to get across in these tweets. Kevin, did you see any of this little PR campaign today?
I read the article. I don't go on Twitter, so I saw the article and I mean, I like it. I think it makes sense, right? Like from my understanding, there's the NFL is kind of so late on this that now they have to cut into the I forget what they call it, but the acclimation period or whatever,
right,
in order to save 2 preseason games. And that's basically what this is about, is that the players are saying no preseason games, because if there's preseason games, then we don't get the amount of time that we need, that was agreed upon, that the medical experts said was a good period of time to have. It's this whole thing with the NFL, it's just been so sloppy and so annoying that they had a chance to actually not screw it up, and of course they screwed it up, and it'll continue to be screwed up.
Yeah, they had the most time to prepare, and yet they're the least prepared, or at least it seems like that. Now, James, to be fair to the NFL, there are a lot of there are a lot of things that they have to deal with that other sports don't. First of all, roster size. The NBA doesn't have to have 55 guys accounted for on each team. It's a little bit easier. You got smaller groups.
Could you imagine the playing time though? If you had 55 guys on the NBA roster, you have 4 rows deep in the.
I'd like hockey shifts for the
on
NBA.
The fly, nice.
Switching, you can switch on the fly, absolutely, and it becomes part of the game. That now I'm watching. So the NFL hasn't gotten things together. It's almost as if they didn't take this seriously from the beginning, when they could have put a plan into place to try to develop some sort of bubble like the NBA is doing, and to some extent, Major League Baseball is trying to do as well. But there's no, there's no rules. So let's read some of what J.J. Watt had to say. The first was that, we want to play. That's the first bullet point he put out there. And they want to be as safe as possible. So the NFL can mandate players show up to training camp regardless if any agreement has been reached between the NFL and the NFLPA. So I guess what J.J. Watt is trying to say out there is like, look, the owners can make us go back, but we just want to go back and be safe. They still don't have the full proper training camp acclimation period as recommended by the medical and training staffs. I'm not sure what that means. James, do you have any idea there? Or is that just they should be in training camp for a couple of weeks before they interact with any other teams? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I'm honestly not 100% sure either if they're referring to like some sort of quarantine like the NBA did, or if they're talking like legitimately like our training camp has been cut short. We need some sort of an acclimation period. I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about.
Kevin, do you know what they're talking about? I suspect they mean that they want to be in training camp long enough to make sure that they don't have an outbreak.
Yeah, I think that's what it means, because the way that I read the article, it sounded like it was things were going to get started, planning to get started on times, but they needed them to come in early in order for them to get started on time. And no, they're not going to come in early because that's not what they agreed upon. And if they're not going to come in early, that means that we don't have time for the preseason games. Everybody got that?
Gotcha. Okay.
Good.
I think so. I was taking notes, so that's good. We still don't know if there will be daily testing, every other day testing, etc. James, I would think that one thing the NFL should have in place by now is the testing protocol.
You would think so. And I'm going to be 100% honest. I love football, and I mean, you guys, like, obviously I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't. I love the Packers. I love football. But the thought of all of these tests going to professional, not just NBA, but professional sports teams where they're getting tested once every day or every 2 days or every 3, when there's a shortage in the rest of the nation, that doesn't stick with me very well. That bothers me. I want there to be sports. I do. But it bothers me that they're going to go through that many tests when if I wanted to get one tomorrow, I have to, I have to go jump through all kinds of hoops.
Or wait in a line in a car for 7 hours.
See, but
right.
I agree with you, James, in theory, but the problem is that, like in a capitalist society, if you can afford the test and you can afford to run the test and you buy the test and you do the testing.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
I mean, it sucks, but
No, that's a valid point. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But to get back to the original question, seems to me like it might have been the easiest thing to get down before, now. Right. Is,
how are you going to tell? Yeah.
Right. And the easiest thing wasn't done. I don't know.
Well, so
do you guys think Roger Goodell is on Amazon right now? Like, COVID tests. Damn, they're so expensive. Sold out. No shipping until February.
Which reminds us, we finally convinced James to get an Xbox so that we can all play a 4-year-old video game together. And they're not delivering for a month.
The anticipation is killing me.
If anybody out there that listens to our mediocre Packers podcast, but if anybody out there still plays Call of Duty World War II, right? That's the name of the game, Kev?
Mm-hmm.
If you still play that game, contact us.
Don't add us with this modern warfare junk.
No, we don't do modern warfare.
I'm almost 40 years old. These other gentlemen.
I'm well above
40?
I'm going to be 40 in a month. So
okay, well,
I was 40 36 months ago.
Well, you're old as sin. Everybody knows that.
So we
But
don't
yeah,
age
don't
our
play
ways.
video games.
But if you play Call of Duty World War II and you want to play with this fine group, if you want to play with us a-holes, then let us know. Contact us in our Facebook group. This is not some sort of patron perk. We just need extra people to play with. So sign up and play, and you'll see how terrible we are. And we are. But anyway, I think I digressed quite a bit. There's more that JJ Watt is understandably concerned about. We still don't know how a positive COVID test will be handled in regards to others in close contact. So what do you do with people that were in the huddle, directly engaged with this person, etc.? I'm adding to JJ's tweet. But that's, again, Kevin, one of the more fundamental things you would think the NFL would have worked out already.
Yeah, I mean, beyond this, guys, think of the impact that this has on Kissing Thursdays. Like that, you can't have that anymore in the NFL.
No.
It's
Nope.
Taco Tuesdays and Kissing Thursdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, it used to be Makeout Monday, but people decided it was coming in a little too hot after the weekend.
Well, yeah.
So they moved it. But now you got to scrap it all together.
I think the union fought for that, actually. Those union things.
Definitely.
Negotiated.
A strong and fair opt-out clause for those at higher risk and those with family members at higher risk has still not been agreed upon. And Russell Wilson was one that tweeted out. Also, he said, "I'm concerned my wife is pregnant. NFL training camp is about to start, and there's no clear plan on player health and family safety. We want to play. We also want to protect our loved ones. # we want to play." So they got some heavy hitters to participate in this, and I think everything that I can see, James, their critiques are warranted.
And they are, and it's everything they're saying is, in my opinion, like 100% correct. Like if I were in their position and I had to be, banging my head up against a dude for, several dozen hours a week, I would certainly want the people that employ me to do so to take the necessary precautions to make sure that I don't catch a disease that could kill me and my entire family. I mean, that's just how,
I mean, that seems reasonable. Kevin, counterpoint.
I mean, you're not only kill you or somebody in your family, but like severely jeopardize your career and your future. An offensive lineman who gets a lung issue, who can no longer run anymore. That's an issue.
Yeah. So where do you think this goes? Do we end up with these players are supposed to report to training camp in? Let's see. I've got the memo here that tells us the dates.
So we saw what it was like 72 players were tested positive or something.
Yeah.
And that number is only going to go up.
Well, that's the thing about viruses. Yeah.
I mean, Chris, I know I played Dr. Mario. Thank you.
So are they going to report? So I think July 23rd is the first date that teams start allegedly reporting for training camp. Are we going to have teams reporting for training camp this week, James? I mean, is this going to happen?
I don't think so. I actually, you know what? I'm going to just go and say I hope not. I hope not. Not until the NFL gets its crap together, and I don't want anybody, even Everson Griffin, God bless him, getting this freaking disease, this virus, and I don't want anybody getting being sick and or dying because the NFL wants money. If we have to live without football for a season, then you know what, we'll figure something out. But until the NFL gets its stuff together, I don't want these people gathering, in a room together. That's just silly.
Yeah. So
I would say, James, your opinion on football is kind of my opinion with football and school too, really. I mean, that's kind of a different topic for a different day, but I'm okay with my kids sitting it out for a few months if it means keeping people safe, including my family, So.
My wife's a teacher, and what I'm pissed about is that everybody's like, we got to go back to work, so the kids got to go back to school. No. My wife is not a daycare provider, so that we can ride out a disease and hope that she doesn't bring it home. And yet here we are in all over the country, and I'm thankful because I believe that our governor will shut it down before it actually happens, just because things aren't getting better right now, even though Pennsylvania has been one of the better states. And I think we go back virtually until January at least. But man, there are people that just don't give a rat's ass and want schools to open. And I understand the frustration. I understand the concern. They can't afford to lose a job. But why do we focus that solution on the schools and not on the jobs? Why do we hold our teachers responsible?
Everybody else's fault and everybody else's responsibility.
Right. Like, why can't we have companies who treat our workers relatively well and say, you know what? We'll let you work from home because guess what? 90% of the jobs can be done from home. And those that can't.
Or like childcare that you don't have to pay a half year tuition for or salary.
Right. Or healthcare that doesn't bankrupt people. Things like that. If we fix things like that, we wouldn't have some of the issues that we have. We wouldn't be forcing teachers to be the ones that have to open up the goddamn economy. And I'll leave it at that. I'm not trying. Well, I am trying to be political. F it. That's, if you don't realize where we stand by now, you haven't been listening closely enough, I don't think. So.
Yeah, turn up the volume because you're not listening closely enough. You jackwad.
Exactly. And also,
If Benjamin were an ice cream flavor, he'd be pralines and dick.
The people at Paramount will be getting in touch with our lawyer. That's you, Chris, by the way.
Wait, I'm the lawyer? I didn't think that was the problem.
I'm not our lawyer.
Well, I mean,
you have a better chance.
I've gotten some pretty good prices out of cereal boxes before, but a lot agree with not one of them.
All right, I forget which news, which one I'm supposed to play. So let's see if it works.
I think we've only done number one.
We have. You ready for number two, Kevin?
Yeah, let's do it. Who'd have thunk a toxic person like Dan Snyder would cultivate a toxic environment?
So, by the way, I want to point out we should have had a celebration because there's two stories here. One, because we took some time off we didn't cover, is that the Washington Daniel Snyders now have a greater chance of being called the Washington Daniel Snyders than ever again being called the Washington because they're changing their name. We were trendsetters.
We were
20 years after the debate started, and we realized how ridiculous it was to have a team named after a racial slur, but there we are. So the first thing is the Washington Football Club will be named something different. But the beauty of that is that they couldn't tell us what it was immediately because they're already stuck in trademark litigation or potential trademark litigation. So we'll see who Washington becomes. But we know who they are. We know they are a crap organization. And there was a story that broke this week in the Washington Post that the organization shockingly has fostered misogyny and sexual harassment for years.
So they fostered misogyny, and Mike McCarthy didn't go there for his next job?
But that's misogyny. You're thinking of misogyny.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Sorry.
That's a whole different.
I don't like to do this because it gives other people credit, but I would like to stop the show for a second. And I would like to point out that Kevin had the confidence in that joke to let it float there, that I missed it. And James, well done. That's a nice breakdown of that. That's anatomy of a joke right there. That's it's like you're watching the DVD and the bonus scenes are on. You've got director's commentary.
That wasn't even planned. That's the best part of it. That was just
fantastic.
Off the cuff.
Okay. So shockingly, the Washington Post exposes that the Washington football team is a terrible group of people, that terrible group of people involves sexual harassment. And there was one incident with one of the executives being forced to do a cartwheel, and that was a male executive. I don't know what was going on there, but James, are you in any way shocked that Dan Snyder is a piece of trash?
We knew he was a piece of trash even before this article came out, based on other things that had come out. Like, he's just a terrible human being. Now, that being said, he's also a horrible, horrible person.
Yes.
I just it boggles my mind, and the fact that we had to wait until this other thing came out. This other, they're changing their name. Oh, and then by the way, they treated women like garbage, and they made executives do cartwheels for their own pleasure. But the name, let's go back to the name, and it's like, it's just so it's awful. I mean, they lost, I think, all three of their majority stakeholders are trying to sell their stake in the team. FedEx was like, not wanting to name their field anymore. They're I don't know, still don't know what happened with their play-by-play announcer. I don't know if he left on his own or he was asked to leave because he did something stupid.
He retired on his own.
And Kevin, what happened slightly before his retirement? Was there an event? Did he?
Well, he was one of. I mean, he was.
Was he one of the accused?
One of the yeah.
Okay.
I mean, did he make his like stat spotter do a cartwheel in the booth? Like, what happened up there?
Maybe he was one of the guys who hung out in the stairwell and tried to catch a glimpse up ladies' skirts. Like,
okay,
guys,
did you read the whole article?
No, I'm not going to lie.
Okay, because they dropped that little nugget in one paragraph. Like there was a spot where the executives like to stand in the stairwell and look up people's skirts. Like, first of all, have the executives heard that the internet has been invented? I mean,
everybody else has already done the dirty work.
Like, you don't have to be so creepy in person. No, and I don't even mean that. Hold on. Before people think that I'm advocating people go look for creepier shots online. No, I mean, there's just general naked people online. So if you want to go see bits, go online. Don't look up someone's skirt. There's a lot of free bits out there.
There's general naked people and there's lieutenant naked people. A few captain naked people.
Anyway.
A rear commandant.
Oh, boy. So now here's my favorite part. Unfortunately, Napoleon of Landover, Daniel Snyder, was not the man involved in any of these things. And I say unfortunately because I just like him to get in trouble because I can't stand him. Because he's a little fascist 3'8" fascist. Anyway, he wasn't implicated directly in the sexual harassment, but guys, he's the president of the organization. Let's not pretend that he didn't know what was going on.
I mean, you would think that HR might have hipped him to something at some point.
So company culture doesn't start from the bottom. Company culture starts at the very top.
Especially in an organization where, while they did have like 250 employees, like that's a small organization and probably a pretty close-knit one where it's not like people in the organization don't know that there's, 15 women being sexually harassed. That doesn't fly under the radar. They all knew about it. So it's as much on Daniel Snyder as it is on those guys who were actually doing the sexual harassing because he knew about it and he let it happen.
Yeah, it's just the culture and the atmosphere. It's like you said, it starts from the top. Everything starts from the top, and if you have somebody at the top who isn't going to tolerate that stuff, then the people who end up doing that stuff will end up not being there anymore. And that apparently, not only did that not happen, they just hired more people that like to do the bad stuff.
Right? They hired more Todd Packers, not fewer Todd Packers. You're an office fan.
It's like policing reform. All right, let's keep going.
So, I want to point out that if you're not watching live on YouTube, you're not engaging in our chat right now, where our listeners are discussing various categories on Pornhub that they find either surprising or disturbing. So that's what's going on and why you should be listening live. Now, it would be easier if we put out the show on a semi-regular schedule. We'll work on that. Until then, just watch social media until we post something. Or go to our YouTube page.
Speaking of semi-regular, you got to stop all this talk.
What is Pornhub?
Anyway.
Is that like some sort of wheel you put on your car?
If you go to our YouTube page and you subscribe and then you hit that little notification bell, then when we irregularly come on the air live, you'll know about it and you can listen to us. Guys, well, we're usually regular when we're on the air. Anyway,
we don't. Never mind.
I want to call an audible here, gentlemen, if that's appropriate. This is a football show, and let's move story 3 to after the break, because that's the way time's working right now. How's that?
Works for me.
I don't care.
Now, I'm going to put this up in the chat on the screen because Suede Knight said James is funny, but they weren't talking about James Corsmo. That was talking about James Hamlin. All right, so let's go to break now. And before we do, Before we do, let's talk about those wonderful OG patrons, the patrons that keep the show running, and the patrons that are the reason that we can go to break right now. I don't know. Kevin?
Yes, the OG patrons. All right, so first up we have Scott Neer. Scott is obviously, he's an ice cream freak. His favorite flavor can be found at Max and Mina's in Queens, and he obviously always orders a double scoop of corn on the cob ice cream. It's delicious, but it's really hard to get in those little the little skewer. That's why he gets a double scoop, so he gets a couple licks and then it falls apart.
I would try cob ice cream.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I bet you it tastes like cornbread, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, Jason Hicks. Jason also prefers New York City for his frozen treats. His favorite can be found at Il Laboratorio de Gelato. It is a fig and
gelato
fresh brown turkey. Fig and fresh brown turkey flavor. That's like a cat food.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Milo Meadsong. He's always been a high-class fella. That's what it says here in my notes. That's why he orders his lobster ice cream exclusively from Ben and Bill's Chocolate Emporium in Bar Harbor, Maine.
I don't know about that one.
Lobster
I would try it.
I'd have that with a side of corn on the cob ice cream. Tell you that much.
Oof, nice savory ice cream duo.
When in Portland, Oregon, Chris Korsmo always is sure to stop by Salt and Straw for a refreshing pear and blue cheese ice cream in a waffle cone. I made up the waffle cone part, but I thought that'd be a nice vessel for a pear and blue cheese ice cream.
Okay, so full disclosure, she's my sister, and I think she would actually eat that.
Does she live
on the west? Is she on the West Coast?
She's in Seattle.
That's why I chose it, because it was on the West Coast. That was actually
the next time she is in Portland, we will pay for her pear and blue cheese ice cream.
I will let her know.
It's got to be in a waffle cone, or else we're not going to approve the expense.
No dice. Yeah, waffle cone or not. That's where we stand our ground. Kevin, go.
All right. Jeff Augustine. Jeff, he won't admit it, but he actually stumbled upon the idea for Creole Creamery of New Orleans Creole tomato flavor. He literally stumbled into the ice cream shop drunk and spilled his Bloody Mary into the ice cream machine, and thus a new flavor was born.
Oh.
That's actually a flavor. Tomato, Creole tomato. It sounds a bit much. But Jeff likes it, so I'm not going to judge. Last but not least, James Hamblin's favorite ice cream is Cheeto Ice Cream. It's a vanilla and cheese swirl dipped in Cheeto dust, and it can be found in New York at Big Gay Ice Cream. That's the name of the ice cream place. Yeah, Big Gay Ice Cream is the name of the ice cream place. All ice cream flavors that I found online, they're all legitimate. And they're all legitimate ice cream places.
James pointed out that this is more work than you've ever put into the show.
No, I put this much work into this part a lot. This is the part I put work into. I'm actually.
So, if you want to become a patron and you want us to talk about your favorite ice cream flavor, we'll have to wait a year for next National Ice Cream Year or Day next year. But the way to do that is go to patreon.com/TTSO, and for a small or large per episode donation, you can help us out, and we'd appreciate it. All right, we are going to go to break right now. We will be back in 2 minutes, 4 seconds, which is almost like 2 and 2, but then we'd have to delete our Twitter account. But we will be back in just 2 minutes, 4 seconds, and we will talk more Packers, more fun, more thrills. Here's the commercial. I couldn't find it on my stupid soundboard. www.titletownsoundoff.com/Amazon. You just order like you normally would, and you help the show. That's www.titletownsoundoff.com/Amazon. Happy shopping.
If you would like to support the show and help others find it, give us a review and a rating. Go to Apple Podcasts and write something nice and give us 5 stars. Thanks.
Welcome back. Back, yes. Is that the word I was looking for? To episode 239, the Title Town South podcast. It is a podcast for fans of Kevin and Power Tools. That's also a category on Pornhub. Not sure if you're aware. Before we get back to the show,
two of those things, no idea how to use either one of them.
Before we get back to the show, we have some other patrons, Hall of Famers, that we'd like to talk about. These people also wonderfully keep the show going. James, tell us about them.
Yes. So we have Paul Goldsack, Kyle Turpening, DJ Lightfoot, Will Zine Savage, and our newest Hall of Fame patron. I know we introduced him last week, but he's our newest, Michael James Crowder. Now, if you guys want to know, if everybody wants to know what these gentlemen will do for a Klondike bar, you can just
you can find it on Pornhub. No.
You stole my punchline. You stole my punchline.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna flip it around. It was obvious, and I'm gonna say you can probably wait for the FBI's 10 most wanted list to come out.
There you go. Sorry, James. I didn't mean.
No, it's okay. It was a good punchline. It was obvious.
All right, let's go. We've got one more news story to cover this week. This one might spur some conversation. That's part of the reason I wanted to move it until after the break. So, Kevin, you ready for news story number 3?
Yes, I am. KGB crazy.
That's it. That's the headline. That's it. Kev, knock knock.
Who's there?
KGB.
KGB who?
The KGB will wait for no one.
You answer.
All right. So this story is both. Well, it's all sad actually when you kind of get into it. The story, James, talks about how KGB basically kind of went down this road of extreme Christianity. And this is nothing new. This started back when he was playing with the Packers. Now, if you're not familiar, KGB, I believe until recently, was the all-time sack leader for the Packers. And part of the reason is because they didn't record sacks. And so maybe he didn't have the most in franchise history. But he was well known. He was a player who stayed around the Green Bay area and was pretty popular.
Yeah, he did. It's a really sad story. It really is. It's he stuck around the area, and this isn't a religion like thing. It's not like a bashing of religion at all. It's I'm Catholic, so I feel guilty already. But so what KGB found was a religion that basically the main tenets are your wife and your children are your property if you're the man, if you're when you're the husband. Multiple wives, totally cool. Because they're property, you see, they're not human beings. And then it is perfectly acceptable. Nay, it is a requirement to be armed to the teeth with as many automatic weapons as you could possibly get your hands on, because you never know when the government is going to come try to invade.
Now, James, what you described, what you just said, there's only one thing that pops into my mind when you say those things. Jesus.
Right. I mean, this is it. The other footprints on the sand were KGB's. I think we all know that. So
during his playing years, he starts to exhibit this fascination with extreme Christianity. I'm making it sound like it's an XFL event, but it really is extreme. And he starts talking with other players about it. And I think one of my favorite bits of the story that wasn't kind of sad was his long late night conversations with Brady Papinga about the evils of Mormonism. Brady Papinga, of course, Mormon.
Right. I mean, you have to maybe you don't have to hand it to him, but the chutzpah of KGB. He gives no Fs. If he had a duffel bag and they were full of Fs, he would not give one about
he
how
doesn't have any
anybody
Fs
else.
in there because it's full of automatic weapons.
Right. So I mean, he would. The
And
Packers,
rosaries, Kevin.
Well,
the Packers employed a team chaplain that would travel to games and back from games, and after the game was over, he would sit down next to the chaplain, Catholic, and tell the chaplain that he was going to hell. And everybody else on the plane that didn't believe in the same tenets of this religion that KGB did would also go to hell. So he's a good teammate. And they actually, Mark Murphy offered to let the chaplain sit in the front of the plane where all the executives sit. And yeah.
like when you're getting harassed at a party and they're like, come on up here, hang out with us.
Yeah. Like he tried to run some interference there instead of, I don't know, maybe punishing KGB or cutting him or something. But anyways,
okay, so he's got, he's already starting, and the one thing that I learned that I thought was interesting is that at one point he was in a Bible study with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and then when it was it was a whole bunch of people from the team, Aaron Rodgers and Colin Jenkins and all kinds of guys. And Rodgers at the end was like, if these are your values and the way that if this is what your religion is, I want no part of it. It's like, that's a paraphrase, but and then he never talked to KGB again. So but we know how petty Aaron Rodgers is. I'm sure it was all on him.
Okay, so what else? So now, past his embracing of this cult-like form of Christianity while he was a player, that started developing and moving on. But the incident that this story from, and this is, by the way, this is a Sports Illustrated story about KGB. They're doing a 3-part long-form written serial about him, basically covering what's going on. And James, this incident that sparked this being written and kind of the country finding out about what's happened to KGB, that was at a Christmas event for his kids, right?
It was. So back to KGB feeling that his children are property and not human beings. And he doesn't agree with them going to a Catholic parochial school. And it was a Christmas program like every school, has. And he had made some comments to the principal or the headmaster, I think, is which is weird to me, that somebody would want to be called the headmaster and not.
That's disturbing.
Yeah. So it's earlier that day. He had told him along the lines of, "Don't worry, black people don't shoot up schools; only white people do," and stuff like that. So then.
That is the school equivalent of saying bomb at an airport. You don't talk about the fact that you are going to shoot up a school or are not going to. Like, that's not cool. Yeah, and he later said he was caught up in the moment. But
just don't mention that.
Yeah.
So you have to think. So linearly, think about this. He tells the principal early that morning, black people don't shoot up schools, white people do, and 2 random white dudes who have never been seen at the school before show up and go sit in like the 6th row in front of the stage, and they don't talk to anybody, and they just look odd. So the principal headmaster, which is weird to say because I thought that was me, went over to these 2 dudes and said, "You got to go." At which point they caused a stink, and the police he called 911, and the police showed up, and lo and behold, the 2 random white dudes had pistols in their waistbands and knives. So KGB gets word that this is going down. His guys have been made, and he comes down there, and he starts throwing a hissy fit. And they almost arrest him. They probably tried. It sounded like they might have tried to, and then just gave up on it. For like they put their hands on him to handcuff him, and then we're like, "Well, you're big," and they just let him go.
Also white, so
yeah. So, it turned into a big thing, and so after this, The school
Well,
shut.
and
Go
did
ahead.
you mention that the two guys that he sent from his church or whatever this is you mentioned they were two white guys. Like
Yeah.
you just said that only white guys shoot up schools. Then you sent two white guys with guns to the school. What message is that sending? Gee, I wonder.
It's yeah. And then he says, well, I wasn't, the KGB's excuse for that was, well, I wasn't even thinking about sending them down there when I said that. And I just said it because I was mad. Well, maybe, but maybe not. So the school is rightfully worried after this happens. They shut down 2 days early for winter break. A whole bunch of people pull their kids from the school, one of which is a Packers field goal kicker and all-time leading scorer, Mason Crosby, pulls his child out of the school. And then KGB proceeds to try to paint himself as the victim in this whole thing by saying his kids are his property and he didn't want them to be subjected to singing Christmas carols and all this, just a lot of stuff. A lot of sovereign citizen nonsense is what it was.
Oh, yeah. Sovereign citizens are the best. So we're going to see, I guess, two more long-form stories about KGB and this spiral that he's gone down. So it'll be interesting to see if this becomes a national story. But I don't know. And I think we throw around mental health too often. But this guy's obviously got some problems. That doesn't mean he's not responsible for his actions as well. Doesn't mean he's not responsible for sending two guys to, with loaded guns to a Christmas pageant. He literally sent two guys to a kid's Christmas pageant with loaded guns.
Yeah.
But the guy needs help, but he needs to admit that he needs help first. It seems like he's been so far in there and so manipulated by this extreme form of, quote unquote faith that, how much chance does he get? I don't know. He probably has money that enables him and
well, and money and the leader of this church that he's affiliated with now is bankrolling him and supporting him and and then at the end of the article or the end of this section, it says he wants to move out of Green Bay because he feels like he's misunderstood. And I said, well, yeah, that's got to be it.
Right. That's yeah. All right, Kevin, anything to add to the story about KGB?
No.
He's not the best color man in the league for nothing. All right, let's move to this is kind of a story, but we didn't put it in our news section. Gentlemen, the Packers have announced there will be no fans at training camp. Understandable, you'd expect that. Obviously, the kids aren't going to be riding bikes this year with the players, and there will be no families at family night, yet they'll still hold family night in Lambeau Field. James.
And Makeout Mondays has also been canceled.
James, what do you think about family night with no families?
It's just night, really. Family night is something that I've gone to. Last year we didn't go, but we went, I think, 5 out of the previous 6 years.
I've been once.
Yeah, it's a fun time. It's good. If you're going there expecting to get a lot of football, to watch, meaningful practice football, you're not. But everything that's surrounding it is fun. The tailgating and the laser light show and fireworks afterwards. It's a good time, and it's a bummer. It's a real bummer. I'm more bummed about the not riding the bikes in the training camp. I think that's such a unique and time-honored, really, it's been going on for so long, tradition that is really only something that happens in Green Bay, and it's a bummer to me that there's kids that aren't going to experience that this year, but understandably so.
They're going to broadcast family night, I believe, in the local market, James. So hopefully there'll be an internet stream as well. Again,
I'll stream it. I'll just
internet stream also Pornhub category.
All right. We have a voicemail, gentlemen. It's been a while, but we do have a voicemail. And if you want to take part in the show, you too can call our voicemail, which, of course, I have that number memorized. I don't have to look up our Twitter account to figure out what it is. That's ridiculous that you would suggest that. But our voicemail number is 920-445-TTSO. That's 920-445-TTSO. You can call, and it doesn't even have to be about football, and it doesn't have to make sense. Here is our call this week. It's from one of our patrons. It is from Milo Meatsong.
Hey, gang, it's Milo. Just wanted to drop in and ask you a question about sort of a prediction you guys made a few months ago that the reason everybody was sort of up in arms about the draft and why they shouldn't be is because Leffler and Gutekunst knew that there wasn't going to be a season this year due to the pandemic going on. I guess my question is, do you still believe that that's going to hold up? And sort of to facilitate the discussion, I want to know if your thoughts would change if there was some states that were doing really poorly and some that are doing really well, how the NFL would come to terms with that. I know that in a lot of different contexts, there are sort of states taking different actions, like with the bar exam. There's a lot of different states that are saying we're going to go through with an in-person exam. Some have said there's going to be an online exam. Some have said there's not going to be an exam. If you're applied to take the exam, then you're just going to be admitted to something called diploma privilege. But just that's sort of just an example, and I want to know what you thought would happen with the NFL if, say, Florida and Georgia and some of these other states that have skyrocketing numbers can't feasibly host games even without an audience, but some other places are doing really well and they think they can get by with it. Do you think the NFL is just going to make a decision one way or the other? Or do you think there will be a season at all, a partial season? Some teams will play, some won't. I just want to know what you guys thought about that. Hope everything's going well with you, and best of luck. Bye-bye.
I want to cover my prediction on this because it's evolved a little bit, but I predict that there will not be a meaningful NFL game played, meaning one that counts toward the standings, till after at least January 1st, 2021. I won't say there won't be a season, because I could see a scenario where the NFL plays a season starting in February, and they play like a 6-game schedule, and then, something like that. I could see that happening. So I won't say there will be no 2020 or whatever season this is. But my prediction is there will be no games played before January 21st. James, what do you think?
I've been saying that something similar to that as well. I cannot envision a scenario in which the NFL doesn't try to make money. So there's going to be football played. I am convinced of it. But again, I don't think it's going to be until after the new year. I mean, and what Milo brought up, it's a valid point, because there are some states, Florida.
Okay, let's hold on to that. I want to talk about that in a second. I want to go to Kevin first. No, that's okay. Kev, what's your prediction about the way this season will look?
So I think I was kind of like you. I initially thought that there would be no season, but then when you kind of look at it, and if the timeline works out, you could play in the winter, early spring, and figure something out at that point. But again, I mean, there's still a lot riding on that. I mean, that's still
right.
That's still kind of a pipe dream at this point, given where we are as a country. In identifying and tracing everything. So
James Hamblin says, I think there will be a couple of games and then a bunch of people get sick and they shut it down. I think that's another very reasonable prediction on that they try to push it and they can't. And they have to shut it down. But I think they want to avoid that because that's, for them, the worst case scenario.
And Milo's question about what about states, some states are better than others, that kind of ties back to what we were talking about earlier. And if the NFL has a medically agreed upon period of time where everybody can be acclimated, and it doesn't matter what state you're from because you're, in a bubble, so to speak.
Like a moving bubble where you're not interacting with people outside of that.
Yes, right. I mean, but I think still, and another good point, like, is there a contingency plan for playing in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 stadiums? Because travel might not be the greatest idea.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking. So if you look at the NBA is in Florida, and they're likely going to play regardless of how horrible Florida is, because financially to Florida, the NBA is huge right now. So what'll happen is Florida may lock down everything, but allow the NBA to continue because they want that money. However, with the way the NFL is set up to play across the country, they're not going to get those same. California is not going to grant the NFL an exemption to play when they've got bars and restaurants shut down, James.
Right.
Oh, no. And another big part of the NBA in Florida is that, they're all in one place. They're all in this bubble inside Disney World, and ostensibly, there's not supposed to be any outside, people or anything from the outside coming in. Now, that being said, I don't think that's feasible. But anyway,
right.
But I think the state, as far as the different states are concerned, I think what is true today isn't necessarily going to be true in a month or two. If you think back to March when all this started to really hit, or like the end of March, and it started to kind of ebb a little bit into April, my guess is if the NFL was like, okay, things are starting to kind of come down. Now the curve is flattening. Maybe we can get away with not having a plan. So, I'm thinking, but then now look at us, a month and a half later, it's, we're back, we're worse than we were then.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is changing so fast. It's so frequent. And, there's so many variables out there. I don't know how the NFL can keep up with it all. And again, with the NBA, I saw today that there's a rule now. They made a rule that all of the NBA teams are going to change in and out of their uniforms at their hotels or at their resorts, and then travel to the games to eliminate locker rooms completely.
Oh wow!
Like high school ball or AAU ball or whatever. Now that might work for the NBA because, like you said before, there's 12 people on a team and then 5 or 6 coaches. There's 53 dudes on an NFL team, and if you're expecting 53 dudes to come out wearing full gear and get on a Lamers bus, and then travel to whatever stadium they're playing.
Well, they could also take a minivan if they'd like.
Well, they could. I mean, or they could go down to Disney and take the monorail. That's how I like to get around down there.
That'd be amazing. I just want to see like I don't even know. I just pick your favorite NFL star late for his game and taking the Skyliner in full gear. That's what I want to see.
The door opens and they break the huddle and they come out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so asinine to me. Like, how are we expecting to get all these logistics down for 32 NFL teams in varying states of crisis among wherever they're at? And I just.
We have players in the NFL who are advocates of the current president who does not believe in science.
Lots of them.
So,
they're not
how do you think this is going to work with how is it going to work? It's just not going to work. I mean,
I fear that James Hamlin's prediction is correct and that we do play a couple games before everything burns down. And then we got a problem. That's what I'm worried about. That is their worst case scenario. I think they shut it down and shoot for like December and hope that beyond hope that people actually start socially distancing, that we shut things down, that a vaccine is developed. And if that's the case, or they develop another plan for playing where they keep these players all at the same complex. Like they could have played this somewhere. There is a facility, I'm sure, that has, 10 football fields that would be good enough that they could play like it was some huge Labor Day soccer tournament. Like they could have done this if they wanted to get product on the field and be sure of it. And I know that sounds silly, but that's what the NBA is doing. They're saying it's important to get things on the air, so we're going to at least try to do something better.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the NFL, they had an opportunity to say, like a month before the season starts, bring your family. We'll you and your family can be here, and you stay here, and you play your games here. But that's real. It's hard to do for football because there's so many people, right? So like even the logistics of like an Olympic village maybe, but where else are you going to find those? That's a lot of things.
But Kevin, hold on. But right now you've got whole cities, tourist cities that are empty.
No, you're right. You're right.
That you could have done this in. You could have said to Vegas. You could have said to now Vegas is a different story because you can't really play outside because it's hot as hell. But like you could have found I don't know. There are cities where you could have put all the players up in 5 or 6 hotels that are reasonably quality and done this. There are probably gambling towns where you could have done that.
Yeah.
But it feels like they didn't. They needed to explore that extreme solution, and they didn't.
I'm just picturing the NFL rolling into Reno.
I was thinking Branson.
City on Earth.
Oh my God, Branson would be
Yakov Smirnoff. Like I'm just seeing like Richard Sherman, like breaking bread with.
Is Gallagher still alive?
Well, I want Yakov Smirnoff to be like. I want Richard Sherman really to be into Yakov Smirnoff, and I don't know why. In Russia, pass intercepts you. That's all I want. I want him to be a fan. Like that's part of the fandom.
Him to make his own like football-related Richard Sherman Yakov Smirnoff jokes is what you're
exactly. That's exactly it. Now you understand my fantasies. Most of them. They involve Yakov Smirnoff.
Putin is Legion of Boom.
Well, that's all right, gentlemen. I think that'll about do it for this week. What do you think? You good with that?
Yeah.
I think that was a good show. Good to be back. We need some more. We need some more Packers news, and I don't think we're going to get more. So we're shooting for at least once every 2 weeks, once every week when it's worth coming back. And we appreciate you guys hanging on. We will have a bonus show coming up in the very near future for our patrons. We swear. That's about it. Before we get out of here, Kevin, what do you got?
So I have So speaking of a bonus show, right? I have several look at this guys for our next bonus show. So
okay.
I'm gonna share one right now as a preview, so that I only have 2 for the next show.
Okay.
I love the people who say keep politics and sports. Keep them out of. Are you gentlemen familiar with Kelly Leffler? With this person?
Yes, I am.
Sounds like you are. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So she is a senator or some sort of, I don't know, some sort of politician in Georgia. The catch is she also owns a WNBA team. However, she believes that we should keep politics and sports separate. So figure that one out.
How do you do that?
Right.
Anyway.
That was quality. That was a quality look at this.
It was good. It was what I liked is it made me think, Kevin. It was introspective. James, before we get out of here, what do you got?
Thank you everybody for being patient with us and hanging and coming back every couple weeks or so while we deal with the wonderful things that are going on in the world. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Thank you. This is a fun group chat tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the better ones we've had, at least in recent. That this was a good one. So if you could just tell people if you see us that we're gonna be doing this, maybe let them know who we are and what we're doing, and come hang out, make stupid comments, make fart jokes, and you could swear. We don't care. Just that'd be great because it's so much fun to watch you guys have fun. I like that. So if you've made it,
also a Pornhub category.
Again, everything is. What is this Pornhub? They're spokes. So what? If you made it 1 hour and 4 minutes, 64 minutes into this thing, why don't you tweet us the word? We'll go with in honor of National Ice Cream Day. Spumoni. I know I've used it before, but that's
nice.
safe.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Spumoni. Also, James's safe word. That if we did show trivia, that would definitely be a question. All right. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to get out of here. I want to remind you that KGB remains my only autographed jersey.
Jesus.
You're his property now, bitch.
Oh, shoot. All right. Join us live on YouTube. Guys, it is fun to see you in the chat. We had a good time tonight. Take it easy. See you next week. Until then, #Spumoni.
The preceding podcast was a production of Productions Institute, LLC. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved. Don't steal our crap.
If Benjamin were an ice cream flavor, he'd be pralines and dick.